Part 1, The Shocking Revelation. The air inside the lawyer's office felt heavier than Olivia had expected. It smelled of old books, ink, and something faintly metallic, perhaps from the polished brass fixtures that gleamed under the dim lights. She sat with perfect posture, her expensive silk dress smooth against the chair's leather. The room was too quiet, save for the rhythmic tap of the lawyer's fingers against a thick envelope resting on his desk. The envelope. Richard's will. Olivia had waited for this moment. She had endured the funeral, the empty condolences, the looks of sympathy from people who had no idea what she had been through. They didn't know the real Richard. They didn't know the life she had lived behind closed doors. And now, none of it mattered. Because in a few moments, she would have everything she had worked for. Everything she deserved. Across from her, Richard's brother, Thomas, sat with a blank expression. He had never liked her, and the feeling was mutual. But Olivia had played her part well, smiling at family gatherings, pretending to be the devoted wife. She had spent years preparing for this, and now, she just needed to get through this meeting. The lawyer, a man in his 60s with graying hair and a solemn face, adjusted his glasses and finally spoke. "Before we begin, Mrs. Caldwell, I want to emphasize that your husband's wishes were very clear." Olivia nodded, barely listening. She knew what was coming. Richard had left her everything, his estate, his investments, the wealth he had built over the years. He had no children. No one else to claim it. The lawyer carefully opened the envelope and pulled out the document. He began reading in a steady, measured tone. "I, Richard Caldwell, being of sound mind and body, hereby declare this my last will and testament." Olivia's gaze flickered to the document, skimming over the formalities. She was waiting for the part where her name would be listed, the moment she would officially win. Then, the lawyer's voice shifted. There was something in his tone, something Olivia had not expected. "To my wife, Olivia Caldwell, I leave." A pause. The room felt colder. Olivia straightened, her fingers tightening around the armrest of her chair. "I leave nothing but the truth she tried to bury." Silence. The words didn't make sense. The lawyer continued, but Olivia barely heard him. Her heart was hammering against her ribs. "My estate, assets, and remaining wealth shall be transferred to the Caldwell Foundation, a charity I have established to support victims of deceit and betrayal." Olivia's breath caught in her throat. No. This wasn't possible. Furthermore, the lawyer went on, should Olivia attempt to contest this will, she will be met with irrefutable proof of her actions over the past 5 years, which have been well documented and entrusted to my legal team. Her hands went numb. She could feel Thomas staring at her now, his expression unreadable. The lawyer cleared his throat and continued. "As for Olivia, I leave her with one final gift, an envelope containing the truth she believed would never surface. I trust she will know what to do with it." Olivia's head spun. A cold sweat broke out along the back of her neck. This was wrong. Richard wasn't supposed to know. He wasn't supposed to have found out. She barely registered the lawyer sliding a smaller envelope across the desk toward her. With shaky hands, she picked it up. It was sealed. Heavy. Her name was written on the front in Richard's familiar handwriting. She swallowed hard, her pulse pounding in her ears. Richard knew. And whatever was inside this envelope was about to destroy everything. 1 year earlier. Richard Caldwell was not a man easily deceived. He built his empire from nothing, clawing his way to wealth through sheer determination. He trusted numbers, contracts, and hard evidence. And yet, he had made the biggest mistake of his life. He had trusted Olivia. It started with small things. The whispered phone calls she thought he didn't hear. The unexplained expenses on their shared accounts. The way she avoided his eyes when he asked simple questions. For months, he told himself he was imagining it. He had been under a lot of stress, his business was expanding, and he barely had time to sleep, let alone monitor his wife's every move. But then came the night everything changed. Richard had been working late in his study when he heard the front door close softly. It was past midnight. Olivia had told him she was at a friend's dinner party. But she wasn't alone. Through the gap in the door, Richard saw a shadow moving in the hallway. A man. His blood turned to ice. Slowly, he stood, his body tense with disbelief. He stepped forward just in time to see Olivia lean into the stranger, whispering something before disappearing up the stairs. Richard's hands clenched into fists. He had spent years building a life with this woman. Had given her everything. And she had brought another man into his home. But Richard didn't confront her that night. Instead, he did what he did best, he gathered proof. The truth Olivia never saw coming. Over the next few months, Richard hired private investigators. He had them follow Olivia, track her movements, document every secret meeting, every stolen kiss, every dollar she funneled into hidden accounts. What he found out was worse than he had imagined. She wasn't just cheating. She was planning to leave him, and take everything. With her lover, a man named Daniel Foster, Olivia had been moving Richard's money, transferring assets under false pretenses. She had been waiting for the perfect moment to disappear, leaving Richard with nothing but the wreckage of their marriage. But she had underestimated him. Richard made his own plans. He rewrote his will, ensuring Olivia would get nothing. He created a foundation, transferring his wealth into a cause that would benefit others instead of the woman who had betrayed him. And then, he prepared his final move, the letter she now held in her trembling hands. Back to the present. Olivia's fingers shook as she ripped open the envelope. A single letter fell into her lap. She unfolded it, her breath catching as she saw Richard's familiar handwriting. Olivia. You always thought you were one step ahead. But you never realized I was watching you. You believed I was blind to your lies, your secrets, your betrayal. You were wrong. I built my empire from the ground up, and I have protected it, just as I have protected myself from people like you. I know about Daniel. I know about the accounts. I know everything. And now, you will know what it feels like to lose everything. Enjoy your new life, Olivia. I hope it was worth it. Richard. The letter slipped from her fingers. Her world had just crumbled around her. And she had no one to blame but herself. The letter slipped from Olivia's fingers, floating to the polished mahogany floor like the final blow of a hammer sealing her fate. The room felt smaller. Tighter. As if the walls were closing in around her. She could hear Thomas shifting in his chair, the lawyer clearing his throat. But their presence barely registered. Everything she had built, everything she had planned, it was gone. Her mind raced, grasping for a solution. This couldn't be real. There had to be a way out. She forced herself to breathe. Stay calm. Think. Olivia slowly reached for the letter again, her fingers trembling. She read each word carefully, looking for something, anything, that might hint at a loophole. But Richard had been thorough. Too thorough. He had known. For months, maybe longer. And worse, he had prepared for this. She swallowed hard, trying to ignore the rising panic in her chest. The lawyer finally spoke. Mrs. Caldwell, would you like to proceed with any legal action? The question was simple, but the weight of it nearly crushed her. If she contested the will, she risked exposing herself to the irrefutable proof Richard mentioned. Proof of what, exactly? Did he have surveillance? Recordings? Bank statements tracing the hidden money? The thought sent a shiver down her spine. She turned her gaze to Thomas, who was watching her closely. His lips were pressed together, but his eyes were sharp, too sharp. He knew. They all knew. A deep, sinking feeling settled in Olivia's stomach. She had walked into this office expecting to leave as a wealthy widow. Instead, she had walked straight into Richard's trap. 1 week earlier, the final setup. Richard Caldwell had always believed in controlling the game. And even from beyond the grave, he was still 3 steps ahead. Sitting in his private, "Make sure she has no way to manipulate this," he had said, his voice rough but determined. "She'll try to contest it. She'll try to fight." The lawyer nodded. "We've secured all the documentation, sir. If she challenges the will, we will present the evidence." Richard exhaled slowly. Good. He had spent months gathering everything: documents, financial records, and even video evidence. Everything Olivia thought was hidden, wasn't. He had watched her betray him. At first, it had hurt. But then? It had fueled him. If Olivia wanted to play games, he would make sure she lost. Back to the present, Olivia's breaking point. Sitting in that office, Olivia knew she had 2 choices. Contest the will and risk exposure. Walk away with nothing. Neither option was acceptable. She refused to walk away with nothing. Her mind raced through possible solutions. There had to be something. She straightened in her chair, lifting her chin. "I'd like to see the evidence Richard mentioned." The lawyer exchanged a glance with Thomas before reaching into his desk drawer. A USB drive. He slid it across the desk toward her. "Everything is on here." Olivia hesitated, then snatched it up. "I assume there's no point in denying it?" she asked, forcing a cold smile. Thomas smirked. "Not unless you think Richard spent his final month setting up an elaborate lie." Olivia said nothing. She turned the USB drive over in her fingers. She needed to see what was on it. A desperate move. That night, Olivia sat in her darkened apartment, her laptop screen glowing in front of her. She plugged in the USB. A folder appeared. Labeled with her name. Her pulse pounded as she clicked it open. Dozens of files. Documents, emails, transaction records. Even photos. A cold chill ran down her spine. She clicked on a video file. It opened to security footage, grainy but clear enough. And there she was. Olivia. Walking into a hotel lobby. With Daniel. Holding his hand. Leaning in to whisper something against his ear. Then, kissing him. She felt like the ground had vanished beneath her. Click. Another file. Bank transfers. Her signature. Her account numbers. Proof that she had been moving Richard's money into secret accounts. Click. A recording. Her own voice. Talking to Daniel. "We just need to wait until he's gone, and then everything will be ours." Olivia's stomach twisted violently. This was bad. Very, very bad. Richard hadn't just suspected her. He had known everything. The betrayal she didn't see coming. Panic flooded her veins. What now? She needed help. Someone to fix this. She grabbed her phone and dialed Daniel's number. He would know what to do. The phone rang, and rang. Then, he answered. Olivia, his voice was tense. She exhaled in relief. "Daniel, it's bad. Richard, he knew everything. He set me up. We have to." But Daniel cut her off. "Olivia, you need to stop calling me." Silence. Her heart stopped. "What?" she whispered. Daniel sighed. "They came to me first. Richard's lawyers. I had to make a deal." Her blood ran cold. "A deal?" "I gave them everything, Olivia. The texts. The emails. The recordings. The room spun." "You, what?" Daniel hesitated. I didn't have a choice. Her body shook with rage. You sold me out. A long pause. Then, in a quiet voice, Daniel said. I have to look out for myself. Click. The call ended. Olivia stared at her phone, numb. Daniel had betrayed her. Richard had destroyed her. She had nothing left. The final blow. Her mind spiraled. No money. No escape. And now, a mountain of evidence that could ruin her. She needed to act. Fast. Suddenly, a knock on the door. Loud. Firm. She froze. Her pulse thundered as she approached. Something felt off. She slowly cracked the door open. 2 men in suits stood there. One of them held up a badge. Mrs. Caldwell, we need you to come with us. Her breath caught. This couldn't be happening. Why? She whispered. The agent gave her a cold, knowing look. You already know why. Olivia's world collapsed. The knock on the door echoed in Olivia's ears, each thud vibrating in her chest like a final countdown. She stared at the 2 men standing before her. Dark suits. Cold eyes. The kind of presence that sent an unmistakable message, authority. FBI. Detectives? Private investigators? It didn't matter. They weren't here for small talk. One of the men, a tall figure with graying hair and sharp features, reached into his jacket. Mrs. Caldwell, you need to come with us. Her heart pounded. No. This wasn't happening. She forced a tight smile. I'm sorry, I don't understand. What's this about? The man's eyes didn't waver. He wasn't playing her game. You can come voluntarily, he said evenly, or we can make this official. The other man, younger and bulkier, reached for something at his belt, handcuffs. Panic surged through her veins. Wait, she blurted, raising her hands. Let's talk. The men exchanged a glance, then stepped aside, gesturing toward the hallway. She hesitated for only a second before grabbing her coat and stepping out. She didn't have a choice. Not yet. The interrogation. The car ride was silent. The city lights flickered past as they drove, blurring into streaks of gold and red. Olivia's mind was spinning. She had no idea how much they knew. Daniel's betrayal was still fresh in her mind. Had he told them everything? Had he given them access to her accounts? The money? She needed to get ahead of this. By the time they pulled into the underground parking garage of what looked like a government building, she had already started crafting a strategy. Deny everything. If they had real evidence, they wouldn't have given her a choice to come involuntarily. That meant they were fishing. Looking for cracks. And Olivia Caldwell did not crack. She was led into a sterile interrogation room, gray walls, a single table, and a camera blinking red in the corner. The older man sat across from her, setting a thick folder on the table. A file with her name on it. You've been a busy woman, Mrs. Caldwell, he said, flipping it open. Richard left quite the mess behind. She forced a casual shrug. My husband's affairs were complicated. He lifted a brow. That's one way to put it. Olivia sat back, folding her arms. Am I under arrest? Not yet, he said. Depends on how this conversation goes. She forced herself to stay calm. The man slid a photograph across the table. It was a still frame from a security camera, her, in the hotel lobby, with Daniel. You were having an affair, he said. It wasn't a question. Olivia scoffed. Is that a crime now? He ignored the jab. What about fraud? Her muscles tensed. Excuse me? The man leaned forward. We have reason to believe you were involved in illegal financial transfers before your husband's death. Olivia's stomach twisted. Stay calm. Don't react. That's ridiculous, she said smoothly. Richard and I shared finances. If money was moved, it was within our accounts. The agent slid another paper across the table. A bank statement. A transfer. A name she didn't recognize. Her throat went dry. We traced multiple transactions to offshore accounts, some linked to Daniel Foster. His eyes locked onto hers. Care to explain? Her pulse hammered against her ribs. Daniel. That bastard. Had he used her without her knowing? Or was he framing her entirely? She had to choose her next words carefully. Daniel handled some of Richard's investments, she lied smoothly. Maybe you should be questioning him instead of me. The agent smirked. Oh, we did. He was very helpful. Olivia's blood ran cold. They had him. And he had turned on her completely. The setup. The interview lasted over an hour. Olivia dodged, denied, and redirected, but she could feel it, they had enough to build a case. They weren't arresting her yet, but it was only a matter of time. As they led her out of the building, her mind was a storm of thoughts. She had to act. Fast. The moment she was back on the street, she pulled out her phone. Daniel wasn't answering her calls anymore. Fine. She had other contacts. There was still money left. Some of it was frozen, but not all of it. She needed to disappear before it was too late. She needed a plan. And she needed someone who could help her vanish. A dangerous gamble. By midnight, Olivia was in a different part of town, knocking on a door she never thought she'd have to visit. The man who answered was not the kind you called for legal help. Damon Wells. A fixer. A ghost in the underworld. The kind of man who could make problems disappear. She had met him once through Daniel. Never thought she'd need him. Yet here she was. Damon leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, looking her up and down with a smirk. Didn't think I'd see you again. I need your help, Olivia said, her voice steady. That so? He chuckled. I heard you're in some deep shit, sweetheart. She clenched her jaw. Can you help me or not? Damon studied her for a long moment. Then, he stepped aside. Come in. She did. And as the door shut behind her, she realized, this was her last chance. If she didn't get out now, she might not get another shot. But Olivia had no idea that Damon had his own plans. Plans that had nothing to do with helping her. The door clicked shut behind Olivia, sealing her inside Damon Wells' world. The dimly lit apartment smelled of expensive cologne and stale cigarettes. A faint jazz tune played from a speaker somewhere in the background. Damon strolled to the bar in the corner, pouring himself a drink. You're in a real mess, sweetheart, he said, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. FBI breathing down your neck, bank accounts frozen. Your little lover boy sold you out, didn't he? Olivia clenched her jaw. I didn't come here for small talk, Damon. He chuckled. Of course not. You came because you're desperate. And desperation makes people reckless. She ignored the jab. I need to disappear. A new identity, safe passage out of the country, and access to whatever money I have left. Can you make that happen? Damon studied her for a moment, then took a slow sip of his drink. I could. Her heart pounded. And? What's your price? Damon smirked. Who said anything about money? She stiffened. Then what do you want? He set his glass down and walked toward her, stopping just inches away. Information. Olivia frowned. What kind of information? Damon's smile faded. Richard was involved in things. Big things. Money laundering. Off-the-record investments. Deals with people who don't like unfinished business. He leaned in. Before he died, he was sitting on something valuable. Something worth more than whatever fortune you tried to steal. Olivia's pulse quickened. I don't know anything about that. Damon raised an eyebrow. See, I don't believe that. I'm telling you the truth, she insisted. Richard never talked to me about his business. Damon studied her face, searching for any sign of a lie. Then he sighed. That's unfortunate. Her stomach twisted. Why? Damon stepped back, reaching for his phone. He tapped the screen and turned it toward her. A photo of Daniel. Beaten. Bruised. Tied to a chair. Olivia's breath caught in her throat. What the hell is this? She whispered. Damon put his phone away. Your little boyfriend got himself mixed up with the wrong people. Thought he could make deals on the side. Now, he's leverage. Olivia felt her knees weaken. Damon, she said carefully. I don't know anything about Richard's business. But if you let me go, I'll find out. I'll get you what you need. Damon tilted his head. And why would I trust you? She forced herself to smile. Because I want to live just as much as Daniel does. A tense silence filled the room. Then, after what felt like an eternity, Damon nodded. You have 48 hours, he said. Find out what Richard was hiding. If you don't, well, let's just say Daniel won't be the only one in trouble. The clock starts now. As soon as Olivia left Damon's apartment, she knew she was running on borrowed time. Richard had been secretive, but there had to be something he left behind that could save her. She needed access to his private files. There was only one place to look. The Caldwell estate. The mansion had been locked down after Richard's death. His lawyers controlled everything. But Olivia still had one last key, a private access code to the study. If Richard had been hiding something, it would be there. Breaking in. That night, Olivia parked her car a block away from the estate. The mansion loomed in the darkness, its once welcoming presence now cold and unforgiving. She pulled her coat tighter around her and made her way to the side entrance. Richard's private office had its own security system, separate from the main house. She punched in the code. Beep. 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 A small green light blinked. Access granted. Her hands shook as she slipped inside. The office smelled like him. Leather. Whiskey. Faint traces of his cologne. The desk was untouched, papers still neatly stacked as if he would return at any moment. She moved quickly, searching drawers, cabinets, even tapping along the bookshelf for hidden compartments. Nothing. Then she saw it. A painting on the wall, slightly crooked. She stepped closer, heart pounding. Richard was meticulous. He would never leave something like this out of place. Carefully, she lifted the frame. A safe. Her pulse quickened. She reached out, but then. A noise. Footsteps. Olivia froze. She wasn't alone. The unexpected visitor. The sound of slow, deliberate steps echoed in the hallway. Someone was coming. Olivia quickly stepped behind the desk, pressing herself against the shadows. The door creaked open. A flashlight beam swept across the room. She held her breath. Then, a voice. I know you're in here. Her stomach clenched. The beam landed on the safe. The intruder cursed under their breath. Then, they stepped into the light. Thomas. The lawyer. Olivia's mind raced. What the hell was he doing here? She stayed silent, watching as he pulled out a slip of paper, typed a code into the safe, and, click. The door swung open. Without thinking, Olivia moved. She stepped forward, grabbing the nearest object, a heavy paperweight, and brought it down hard. Crack! Thomas collapsed, groaning. Olivia didn't hesitate. She lunged for the open safe, grabbing whatever was inside. A black ledger. She stuffed it into her coat and bolted from the room. The truth uncovered. Back in her car, Olivia flipped open the ledger. It was full of names, transactions, offshore accounts. Her stomach twisted. Richard had been hiding millions, not just from her, but from the government, from his investors, and from dangerous people. And now, she had it. But the realization hit her like a truck. This wasn't just about money. Richard had been keeping records on everyone. Damon. His associates. Even law enforcement. Olivia wasn't just in trouble. She was in the middle of something much, much bigger. And now, with the ledger in her hands, she was the most wanted woman in the game. What's next? Damon is waiting for answers. Will she give him the ledger? Or use it as leverage? Thomas isn't dead. What will he do when he wakes up? Richard's secrets are dangerous. Olivia is in deeper than she ever imagined. The black ledger sat on the passenger seat like a ticking bomb. Olivia's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that her knuckles turned white. This book was her way out. It contained everything: illegal money transfers, offshore accounts, bribes, even names of corrupt officials. Richard had been hiding a fortune, and now, all of it was in her hands. But that also meant something else. If the wrong people found out she had it, she was as good as dead. She took a shaky breath and grabbed her phone. Damon. She had promised him answers. But should she hand over the ledger? Her instincts screamed no. Damon was dangerous. He didn't do favors, he made transactions. If she gave him the book, she would have nothing left to bargain with. She needed time to think. But time was a luxury she didn't have. The blood-stained warning. Olivia pulled into a quiet motel parking lot, heart pounding. She needed a place to think. Somewhere off the grid. She rented a room under a fake name, paying in cash. As soon as she stepped inside, she locked the door, pulled the curtains shut, and placed the ledger on the bed. Think, Olivia. She flipped through the pages again. Richard's handwriting covered every inch of the paper: names, numbers, coded messages. Then, something caught her eye. One name was circled in red ink. And next to it, a single word was scrawled in Richard's handwriting. Leverage. Olivia's breath hitched. The name was Damon Wells. Her blood ran cold. Richard had something on Damon, something big enough to be used as leverage. That meant Damon wasn't just after the money. He was trying to erase something. A knock on the door made her jump. Her heart nearly stopped. Slowly, she crept toward the peephole. Nobody was there. Then, she saw it. A note, slipped under the door. She hesitated before picking it up. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the paper. 3 words were scrawled in black ink. Give it back. A chill crawled up her spine. She wasn't safe here. She wasn't safe anywhere. A desperate call. She had only one option left: she needed to disappear. She grabbed her phone and dialed the only person who could help her vanish. It rang twice before a voice answered. "You're a hard woman to find," Damon said smoothly. Olivia swallowed. "We need to talk." There was a pause. Then, "You got something for me?" "I have the ledger," she admitted. "But I'm not giving it to you." Silence. Then, Damon laughed. "That's a bold move, sweetheart. Considering your current situation." "I want a deal," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I give you information. You give me enough money to disappear. Damon didn't answer right away. You know, Olivia, he finally said, his voice dangerously soft, I like you. You've got nerve. But here's the problem, you don't have leverage. You have a death sentence. Olivia's pulse pounded. You don't think I can use this against you, she said, forcing confidence into her voice. I know you can't, Damon replied. Because if you try, you'll be dead before you say my name. Her fingers tightened around the phone. You need this ledger. If I disappear, you lose everything in it. A slow, amused chuckle. You're not the only one who wants it, sweetheart. Her stomach dropped. Who else? She demanded. But the line had already gone dead. Nowhere to hide. Olivia couldn't stay in the motel. Someone knew where she was. She grabbed the ledger and rushed to her car, driving aimlessly through the city streets. She needed a plan. She needed a way out. Then, her phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number, you're running out of time. Her hands shook. Then, another message. Unknown number, we need to meet. If you want to live. She hesitated, then typed back, who is this? A few seconds later, a reply came through. Unknown number, someone who wants Damon dead just as much as you do. Olivia's heart pounded. Was this a trap? Or was this the break she needed? Either way, she didn't have a choice. She typed one word. Where? The stranger in the shadows. The meeting spot was an abandoned parking garage on the outskirts of the city. Olivia pulled in slowly, headlights cutting through the darkness. A lone figure stood near the far wall, face hidden in the shadows. She parked but kept the engine running. Her fingers curled around the small gun in her purse, Richard's old revolver. She stepped out. You have 1 minute to tell me why I shouldn't drive away. The figure stepped forward. And Olivia's blood turned to ice. It was Daniel. He looked terrible, bruises on his face, a busted lip. But his eyes were sharp, determined. Surprised, he said. Olivia clenched her fists. You betrayed me. You think I had a choice, he snapped. Damon was going to kill me. Maybe he still will, she shot back. Daniel took a deep breath. Listen. Damon doesn't just want the ledger. He wants to erase everything in it. And he's not working alone. Olivia's stomach tightened. Who is he working with? Daniel hesitated. Then, he said, the FBI. A wave of shock slammed into Olivia. What? She whispered. Daniel nodded. Richard wasn't just hiding money, he was keeping records on dirty agents. If the ledger gets out, it won't just ruin criminals, it'll take down powerful people. People willing to kill to keep their secrets buried. The weight of it all crashed down on Olivia. She had thought this was about Richard's money. But this was so much bigger. Damon is going to meet with them tonight, Daniel said urgently. They're making a deal. If he hands them the ledger, we're both dead. Olivia's mind raced. She needed to stop that deal. But that meant one thing. She had to face Damon. And this time, only one of them was walking away. The city lights flickered in the distance as Olivia tightened her grip on the wheel. The weight of the black ledger sat heavy in her lap, as if it carried all the secrets of the world. Because in a way, it did. Beside her, Daniel exhaled shakily. The bruises on his face looked worse under the dim glow of the dashboard lights. He had barely made it out of Damon's grasp alive the first time. If they failed tonight, there wouldn't be a second chance. Are you sure about this? Daniel asked. No. But Olivia nodded anyway. We don't have a choice. Damon was meeting with corrupt FBI agents to make the exchange. If he succeeded, he would have all the power. Olivia and Daniel would be dead before sunrise. They had one shot to stop him. One shot to turn the tables. And Olivia wasn't planning on missing. The setup. The meeting was set for midnight at an old shipping yard on the outskirts of town. Why here? Olivia murmured as she scanned the empty dock. Massive containers towered over them like silent witnesses. The air smelled of salt and rust. Because it's private, Daniel said. And if something goes wrong, bodies disappear fast in places like this. Olivia swallowed. They had a plan. But Damon was unpredictable. And the FBI? Even worse. Let's go over this again, Daniel said. Once Damon arrives, we wait until he hands over the fake ledger. Then we hit them with the real evidence, Richard's files on the FBI. The moment they realize Damon is double-crossing them, they'll turn on him. And if that doesn't work? Olivia asked. Daniel pulled back his jacket, revealing a gun tucked into his waistband. Then we improvise. A cold chill ran down her spine. She hated that this was what it had come to. But this was survival. And Olivia wasn't planning on dying tonight. Damon arrives. The first car pulled in at exactly 11:50 p.m. A sleek black sedan. Damon. He stepped out, dressed in his usual dark suit, confidence oozing from every movement. Behind him, 3 men followed. Armed. Dangerous. Olivia's pulse quickened. Then, the second car arrived. The FBI. A silver SUV rolled to a stop, and 3 men in plain suits stepped out. They looked like any regular government agents, clean-cut, professional, unreadable expressions. But Olivia knew better. These weren't the good guys. One of them, a tall man with sharp eyes, stepped forward. Damon. Agent Cole, Damon greeted smoothly. Nice night for a business deal, isn't it? Olivia and Daniel crouched behind a shipping container, watching as Damon reached into his jacket and pulled out a black leather book. Olivia's breath caught. It was a fake. He was about to sell them false information, just enough to keep them satisfied while protecting himself. Damon held the book out to Cole. As promised. The agent took it, flipping through the pages. His expression didn't change, but there was a shift in the air. Everything should be there, Damon said. Now, I expect my payment. Cole smirked. Not so fast. Damon's jaw tightened. That wasn't the deal. Cole closed the book with a snap. The deal was for real information. This is bullshit. Olivia tensed. Cole knew. Damon kept his composure. What are you talking about? That's everything Richard left behind. Cole's expression darkened. Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I don't know Richard kept a real ledger? The one that has names, dates, bank accounts, things that could actually destroy careers? Damon's fingers twitched at his side. Cole took a step closer. Where is it, Damon? Silence. Damon didn't answer. And that's when Olivia stepped out of the shadows. The betrayal. Looking for this? Olivia called. Every head turned. Damon's eyes widened slightly, shock, then amusement. Cole, however, wasn't amused. His sharp eyes locked onto Olivia as she held up the real ledger. The moment was thick with tension. Damon's voice was low, controlled. Careful, sweetheart. Olivia ignored him. She turned to Cole. He was trying to con you. This is the real ledger. She tossed it toward the agent. It landed at his feet. Cole hesitated, then slowly crouched down, flipping through the pages. A flicker of recognition crossed his face. He knew. This is it, he muttered. Then, his expression changed. Damon, you son of a... Gunfire erupted. Chaos at the docks. It happened fast. One of Damon's men panicked and fired first. The bullet hit one of the FBI agents square in the chest. He dropped instantly. Cole dove for cover. The other agent pulled his gun, firing back. A full-on shootout exploded. Daniel grabbed Olivia, yanking her behind a container. "Run," he shouted. She didn't need to be told twice. Bullets ripped through the night. Sparks flew as metal ricocheted off shipping containers. Damon was caught in the crossfire. Olivia peeked around the corner. Damon had taken cover behind his car, blood dripping from his arm. But he wasn't going down without a fight. He pulled out his own gun, aimed at Cole, and bang! A bullet slammed into his chest. Damon staggered, eyes wide. He dropped his gun. Then, he fell. Dead. Olivia's breath caught. Damon Wells, the man who had terrorized her, who had controlled her fate, was gone. But they weren't safe yet. The final escape. Cole turned toward Olivia. His gun was still raised. She knew that look. She had helped him, but she was still a loose end. He wasn't going to let her walk away. Daniel saw it too. Before Cole could pull the trigger, Daniel tackled him. The gun went off, but missed. Olivia didn't hesitate. She grabbed a discarded weapon from the ground, aimed. Bang! Cole collapsed. Silence. Daniel panted, looking at Olivia with wide eyes. "Did you?" "I didn't kill him," Olivia said quickly. "But we need to go." Cole was still alive, but barely. And she wasn't going to wait for backup to arrive. They ran. Through the docks, past the lifeless bodies. They reached their car, throwing themselves inside. And without a second thought, Olivia floored the gas. The aftermath. As they sped away, neither of them spoke. The black ledger sat between them. They had won. But they had also made enemies. Damon was dead. The corrupt FBI agents were either killed or wounded. But someone, somewhere, would come looking for revenge. Daniel exhaled. So, what now? Olivia stared at the road ahead. She had been running for so long. But now, for the first time, she was free. Still, there was one last thing to do. She picked up the ledger, flipped to the last page. A bank account number. A hidden fortune. "Now," she murmured. She smirked. "Now we disappear." The city lights faded into the horizon as Olivia sped down the highway, Daniel beside her. The black ledger, the object that had nearly cost them their lives, sat between them like an unwanted passenger. They had survived Damon. They had survived the corrupt FBI agents. But were they truly free? Olivia's hands were steady on the wheel, but her mind raced. She wasn't naive. Even with Damon dead, even with the ledger in her possession, someone would come looking for them. Powerful people had been exposed tonight. People who wouldn't let this go. And Olivia knew one truth. The past never stays buried. A dangerous proposition. They drove for hours, finally stopping at a rundown roadside diner in the middle of nowhere. It was nearly dawn, and exhaustion was beginning to set in. Inside, the place was empty except for a tired waitress refilling coffee at the counter. Olivia slid into a booth, Daniel sitting across from her. For the first time in days, there was silence. Then, Daniel exhaled sharply. "We need a plan." Olivia nodded. "We have the ledger. We have Richard's money. But that also makes us targets." Daniel rubbed his face, wincing at the bruises. "We could run. Disappear." Olivia reached into her jacket and pulled out a slip of paper. She slid it across the table. Daniel frowned. What's this? A bank account. Offshore. Richard hid a fortune in it. More than enough to start over. Daniel's eyes widened. How much? She hesitated. Then, quietly. Over $50 million. Daniel stared at her. You're serious? She nodded. They had risked everything, but the reward was unimaginable. They could vanish, live like ghosts, new identities, new lives, total freedom. But Olivia could see the hesitation in Daniel's eyes. Because freedom came at a cost. And they weren't alone in this. The call that changed everything. Olivia's burner phone buzzed. A single text message appeared on the screen. Unknown number, we need to talk. Now. Her breath caught. Daniel leaned forward. Who is it? She didn't answer. Instead, she dialed the number. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered. Agent Cole. Her grip tightened on the phone. You're supposed to be dead. A dry chuckle. Yeah, well. You didn't finish the job. Olivia exchanged a look with Daniel. What do you want? She asked. Cole's voice dropped to a low whisper. You think it's over, don't you? That you can just take the money and disappear? Olivia stayed silent. Cole continued. Damon was just a pawn. You have no idea how deep this goes. There are people above me, above Damon, who won't stop until that ledger is destroyed, and everyone who's touched it is dead. A chill ran down Olivia's spine. Then why are you calling me? She asked. Cole hesitated. Then. Because I want out. And I need your help. The last meeting. Olivia should have walked away. She should have thrown the phone out the window, driven into the sunset, and never looked back. But she couldn't. Because deep down, she knew Cole was right. This wasn't over. So an hour later, she and Daniel stood in a deserted parking garage, waiting. A black car pulled in. Cole stepped out. He looked worse than before, pale, wounded, like a man barely clinging to life. He wasted no time. You have two choices, he said. Take the money and run. Or use that ledger to bring them down. Olivia crossed her arms. Who's them? Cole glanced around, lowering his voice. A private network of high-ranking officials. Judges, senators, law enforcement, they run everything. The ledger has enough evidence to expose them, but if they get it first, they'll erase it. And they'll erase you. Olivia's pulse pounded. Daniel looked at her. Olivia, this isn't our fight. She knew he was right. But she also knew something else. They would never be free unless the people hunting them were destroyed. She looked at Cole. If we do this, we do it on our terms. Cole nodded. Then let's end this. The final play. The plan was simple. Expose everything. They had the names. The accounts. The connections. Cole would leak the ledger to the press, law enforcement, and international agencies, all at once. No one could stop it if it spread fast enough. But Olivia had one final move. A dead man's switch. She set up a secure system. If anything happened to her or Daniel, the ledger would automatically be sent to every major news outlet in the world. There would be no stopping the truth. And then they waited. Retribution. The fallout was immediate. By morning, headlines exploded across the country. Massive corruption scandal exposed, dozens of high-ranking officials under investigation. Secret ledger reveals criminal ties in law enforcement, politics, and business. Arrests began within hours. Some of the most powerful men in the country were suddenly running for their lives. Olivia watched the news from a hotel room, a deep sense of satisfaction settling over her. But she knew the truth. Some wouldn't go down without a fight. The last goodbye. Daniel packed his bag. We should leave before they trace this back to us. Olivia nodded. She had already wired the money to a dozen different offshore accounts. They would disappear. New names. New passports. New lives. But before they left, she had one last thing to do. She picked up her phone and made a final call. When the line connected, she simply said, "It's done." A pause. Then, "You did the right thing." It was Cole. Olivia exhaled. "What happens now?" Cole's voice was quieter now. "Now? We disappear." And then he was gone. The road to freedom. They left that night. No goodbyes. No loose ends. Just the open road ahead. Olivia didn't look back. For the first time in a long time, she was free. And no one would ever see her again. Or so she thought. Epilogue, one last twist. Years later, in a quiet cafe on the other side of the world, a newspaper lay open on a table. A single headline stood out. Mysterious deaths of former government officials. Is this the final cover-up? A woman sipped her coffee, watching the world move around her. She wore sunglasses, her hair a different color. But if anyone looked closely enough, they might have recognized her. Olivia. She smiled to herself. The past was gone. But the game? The game was never really over.